just want to preface this with I don't have a shopping addiction. I bought a lot of books. I love them. I do. Welcome to a unhinged book haul. Hello, welcome to my summer road trip book haul. I went on a graduation road trip starting from Orange County, California, all the way up to Vancouver, British Columbia and back. So that means we hit cities like Santa Cruz, Portland, Forks, Washington, Seattle, Vancouver obviously, and a bunch of different ones along the way. I wanted to go there specifically because that area is so beautiful, and I wanted to go to Forks because I am a Twilight fan. If you're not, I don't trust you. Anyway, and I got this book a few months ago called My Bookstore. I bought this from my favorite bookstore, which is Bookworks in Albuquerque, and I bought this used, and it's essentially 85 American authors' favorite independent bookstore, or the independent bookstore that means the most to them. There were actually a bunch of them on our route, and so we decided to go there, as well as some other bookshops that I had found either online or YouTube or word of mouth, whatever. So we ended up going to 11 different bookstores on the route, but I also did some book shopping / acquiring at different little free libraries and thrift stores and back home. There's a lot of books here. I actually count them now, 32 books, which is a little bit silly and crazy. I will say though, only 3 of these did I purchase full price, so I'm pretty proud of that. The rest were used or sale books. And essentially the way that this book is set up is there's an essay about each bookstore. And so it was really fun to, on the drive, either my mom or I would read it to the person who's driving and just read about these bookstores right before we would go see them, and just talk to people who own them and browse and kind of see different architecture and also like different selections and different community spaces, and it was just really fun. And I have clips to show, of course, throughout the course of this video, so I think maybe it's best to go in chronological order. I do have some books that I got at home, and I was home for 2.5 weeks before we went on the trip, so maybe my biggest pile here. And I did get some books at home that I already got rid of. So pan to me in the past. Hello and welcome to my parents' guest room, where I am hauling 2 books that will not be coming back to Albuquerque with me. So spoiler alert, I have read them. The first is kind of a hand-me-down or a handoff from my cousin, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is a college hockey romance about Anastasia and Nate Hawkins. She is a figure skater and he is the captain of the hockey team. Something goes wrong with the hockey team's rink, so now they have to share a rink, and they're kind of frenemies to lovers. This has been a very popular book on TikTok, and my cousin had pre-ordered it. She read it and passed it off to me. At the Thousand Oaks Public Library, I purchased 2 books, only one of which I need to talk about now, and that is The Vegetarian by Han Kang. This book is about a woman who is having nightmares about meat, and so decides to stop eating meat. And her family is very uncomfortable with this and is kind of going after her and trying to fix her. I have really been enjoying these kind of short, weird, psychological, slightly horrific books, and I think that this fits into that genre quite well. Now that we're back here to the future / the present / still the past, time is a construct. I just read This Is How You Lose the Time War, so time is fake. Anyway, let's talk about the books I got while I was either in San Diego or Orange County, which is where my family lives. Let's start with books that I got when I was much younger. However, I'm finally bringing them back here with me to join my shelves, and that is the John Steinbeck Centennial Edition box set. These were my grandfather's, and I inherited them really when I was like 10 years old. I still have them, clearly. The books that are in here are Cannery Row, East of Eden, The Grapes of Wrath, Of Mice and Men, and Travels with Charlie in Search of America. The Pearl is also supposed to be in this box set. I don't know if it was and I lost it or if it was never in there, but I've actually already read Cannery Row. I read it for a book report, hence these heinous highlighter post-its. I remember enjoying it though. I did it when I was a freshman in high school, so 8 years ago now. That's terrifying. At the Thousand Oaks Public Library, I purchased this copy of The Scarlet Letter for 50 cents. And I hope you agree with me that she kind of looks like Lana Del Rey. I already have a copy of The Scarlet Letter, but this is my favorite classic, and so I just like this, and for 50 cents, if I ever were to reread also, it'd be nice to when have. I was home, we went to Coronado Island, which is off of San Diego, and from a little free library out there, I got a Master of Gin. Kind of one of these staple sci-fi books, and it's really cool. It came with postcards, which is really fun. So this book is about a secret agent who's kind of tasked with figuring out what happened in their world where magic has recently been restored and people aren't who they say they are, and there's murder and framing. Then from my sister and my cousin who live in San Diego are part of a book club with me. We frequently circulate books, one of which is The Binding by Bridget Collins, which is about a young boy who's a bookbinder in this kind of magical world, and things unfurl. I need to say this before book haul, I really try not to read the synopsis on the back of the book. I like to be surprised, so I know very minimal about these books, and I'm gonna keep it that way. Sorry, not sorry, I got The Binding by Bridget Collins. 2 books that I've actually already read, so that's good for the purposes of the haul. But we read in our book club Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield, and I had just rented this from the library that had the Ugly American cover on it, and my sister had purchased the book with the beautiful UK edition and didn't really love it, and I loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, so she was gracious enough to pass this on to me, and I just think this is a perfect book cover. If you've read the book, you know that this is even more perfect than it just looks stunning. This is about a wife who is a submarine engineer, and her submarine is lost at sea. What happens when it's found, and she's trying to assimilate back into her normal life. Flips back and forth between both wives, the one who went on the submarine and the one who's trying to adjust to her wife's new perspective on life. Another perfect book that I have already read is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is a memoir about an abusive lesbian relationship and how Carmen Maria Machado didn't know what to do in that situation because it's already hard enough to be taken seriously in a queer relationship. Also, what happens when you feel like you cannot escape it, and how her life has changed and her perspective has changed since then. This is such a great book and memoir, and really blew me away with its creativity and storytelling. My cousin and I both really love this book. She got a hardback copy and so passed this one on to me. But now I own 2 books that I love that I've already read. Okay, so this is everything I got at home. Starting off now into the trip. In order to plan for visiting all of these bookshops, I put some effort into beefing up my TBR on Storygraphs, and basically any book that I had thought I might want, I put on there so that it was so much easier when I was in a bookshop trying to shop. I didn't feel so lost, and it also meant that I would be buying books that I thought I would really love. And there were 2 books that I was like, above all, these are the books that I really want to buy and find on this trip and support an independent bookstore by buying. And that was The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin and I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. I don't want to spoil anything, but we were successful in this kind of cute and romantic way that I will explain. So the first book I bought was at our first stop we kind of just drove through, which was Chaucer's Books in Santa Barbara, California. Our first day we were driving from Orange County to Santa Cruz, and so Santa Barbara is on the way, and I bought The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I did buy this new. I just knew that I wanted it and I didn't want to hold off on buying it. This is about a society that is prone to climate disaster and frequently has to rebuild itself, and that's as much as I know. But I hear reviews about this a lot, and I am such a fan of the like dystopian and the desperate kind of sci-fi books where you're dealing with worldwide disaster and power structures and how do you go about fixing things like this. Look at this cute bookmark. A good book is a friend for life. That is so adorable. So that was the first book that I purchased. Obviously, as I mentioned, we ended that day in Santa Cruz. So we visited Bookshop Santa Cruz, and this bookstore was phenomenal. They had so many rooms and a decent used book selection, and so I purchased Perfume by Patrick Susskind, used. Has a little used sticker on it. This book is about a man who really is driven by scent, and it's the scents that he uses to navigate the world, whereas if you have working vision, your brain automatically defaults to vision, and so he comes across these women that he just needs to murder to make a scent out of. And this is a book that I don't know if I'll be able to handle. I've really been exploring horror lately, and I do love it, but more so kind of paranormal and a little bit spooky. This is actually a horrific act and a terrifying narrator. I don't know how well I will handle that. I don't really love like true crime and things like that, so we'll see. But I was really intrigued by this book. I saw Throne of Pages read this in their translated novels, and this is translated from German, I believe. So I was just intrigued and I saw it, and so I bought it. That's what life is about, right? So our first night we spent in Santa Cruz. The next night we drove from Santa Cruz to Brookings, Oregon. And so we passed through San Francisco and Northern California, kind of redwood forest areas. So just past the Golden Gate Bridge is a town called Corte, Madera, and they have a beautiful bookstore called Book Passage. It's actually two buildings, one for their new adult fiction and nonfiction and various genres like the cookbooks and all of that, and then the other one is their used books and their children and YA section. From their used section I bought The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This was a personal recommendation from one of my graduate school interviews. The grad student was like, this is my favorite book, please read it. So I'm curious to see if I will like it. The font is really large, which is exciting. This is essentially the boroughs of New York City have avatars who fight each other, is what I'm under the impression of. How freaking cool is that? Yeah, I'm gonna read that. I'm reading that. Then from Brookings, Oregon, we went to Portland, Oregon, and Portland, Oregon has Powell's City of Books, which I believe is the largest independent bookstore in the United States in terms of square footage. I did some damage in Powell's. Up until this point, I had done one book per bookstore. They have so many books, so many good books, so many used books, so many sale books. I went there twice. We were in Portland for 2 nights. I went the first day we were there and the second day we were there. I only didn't go the third day we were there because we left at 6 a.m. I love Powell's. I can't describe to you how much fun I had in Powell's. They have so many different rooms and they're called by colors. So like the orange room, which I believe was their sci-fi room, the red room, the purple room, Pearl Room, which was their meeting space. Just so many books, so many books. On the first day, I bought 4 books. The first is Animal by Lisa Taddeo. 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo was my favorite book of last year, and it's a nonfiction, narrative nonfiction. And this is her novel, so I thought I would pick that up because I loved that book so much. It was automatic, yes, I would read that. I bought The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I read the Monk and Robot books by Becky Chambers over this past year and absolutely loved them. And this book is a little bit longer, and it's a longer series, so more to enjoy, and I'm very excited about that. This book is about a girl who joins a ragtag spaceship searching the galaxy. I also picked up Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I am so excited about this book. Lesbian necromancers. Say less. Just look at how cool this is. They're cool. That is a cool person. Are they still alive? I don't know. I haven't read these, so I can't give as much detail as maybe would be helpful. And then I purchased The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. I am so excited about this book. I have forced myself to forget the plot, because I heard, I believe it was Carrie Can Read talk about this book, and it sounded absolutely perfect in every way, and I added it to the TBR, and I don't remember what it was about, and I'm not reading the synopsis. I don't want to know. I like to go into my books blind. Like, if I think I'm gonna like it, I want to know as little as possible, because I'm such a plot person that the more I know, the less engaged I will be, and sometimes I feel like synopses take you through half the book. How am I supposed to get through half a book where nothing is a surprise? It's not for me. Then on my second day at Powell's, I decided to pick up another book by Han King, and that is Human Acts. It's much more highly rated than The Vegetarian. So this book is about a student who is killed in a student uprising, and told from the perspective of various people who knew him or were related to the incident in some way, kind of uncovering the violence, the root of it, as well as the effects it can have on people. And so seems like a very beautiful but devastating story that I think will maybe make more sense than The Vegetarian. This is the only book that I bought that was not on my TBR and I had never heard of, but there was a little blurb under it that said, "For fans of three women." So I'm gonna buy that, and that is The Purity Myth: How America's Obsession with Virginity is Hurting Young Women. This is a topic that I am very interested in terms of how young women are treated and expected to behave based on standards that they themselves may not find valuable and may even find suffocating, which seems to be the whole point of this book. And so I'm really intrigued to read this. I don't read a lot of nonfiction, and mostly if I do, it's memoir, but this seems to be a topic that will be both relatable and partially narrative, so I think I will really enjoy this. Oh, and this is by Jessica Valenti. Also in Portland, I bought two books thrifting. The first is The Book of Night by Holly Black. I know that people hate this book, and if you would ask me before I read The Stolen Heir, I would say there's no way that I could hate anything that Holly Black wrote. I really, really enjoyed the Cruel Prince series. I did not enjoy The Stolen Heir. In fact, it's my most disappointing book so far of the year. I've heard not great things about The Book of Night, more so that it doesn't make sense, and maybe it's supposed to be an adult novel or her adult fantasy debut, but it doesn't feel like it, or I need to know for myself. In my head, she's like robbing a casino. Is that correct? I don't think so. Then I also bought Euphoria by Lily King, and I'm thinking about doing a reading vlog where I read the second book from an author. There's a lot of authors where I own a second book by them, but I've only read one, and this would be included in that. I read Writers and Lovers by Lily King, and I really enjoyed that book, and so this was one that I had seen at a different used bookstore, didn't buy it, and then regretted it, so I saw it again, and I believe it's about a throuple, so that'll be exciting. After Portland, we went to Forks, Washington, and then we went to Port Angeles, Washington. There weren't really bookstores there. I didn't buy any books. I thought about books, and by that I mean I thought a lot about Twilight, because we did the whole Twilight tour and it was perfect and beautiful, and Port Angeles is also a very beautiful place right on the water and looking out onto Victoria and everything. Really, really beautiful place. So that meant our next big city stop was Seattle. We went to 3 bookstores in Seattle proper and one more in a suburb of Seattle called Lake Forest Park. So the first bookstore we went to in Seattle was Arundel Books, which is such a beautiful bookstore. The ceilings were insane. It was just a very beautiful place. I also bought a brand new book there, How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu, a book about a novel illness that is affecting mostly children, or disease or virus or one of these things. And just look at this cover. I'm obsessed with this cover. Another kind of dark dystopian sci-fi book that I am really excited to read, and a bookstore that I just loved visiting. So beautiful. And then maybe the most famous bookstore in Seattle is the Elliott Bay Book Company. For good reason. This is a huge bookstore in a really fun part of Seattle, Elliott Bay, and they had so many shelves in there, high ceilings, big cafe area, and I really enjoyed that bookstore a lot. I purchased a new bullet journal, which isn't really a book, but it was pink and dotted. This is from the brand Lucturn. Then I bought The World Gives Way by Marissa Levin. This was on sale, which was really nice, and it's an upcoming book club pick, so I figured I might as well just pick it up for $6.99. Like, that's a steal for a hardcover. I like to highlight and tab books for book club, so it's just easier if I own them. This is about an indentured servant on basically the Wall-E ship, where they're trying to escape Earth and the damage they have done to Earth by living on a spaceship that's supposed to be self-sustaining through generations, and the family that she is working for dies, I think, and she has to figure out how to not be framed for that murder while also get free. Hi, we're back in my parents' house. Because I want to say I did buy a secret third book at the Elliott Bay Book Company, and that is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. I have already read this and really enjoyed it. I bought this as a birthday gift for my cousin, and the reason I bought this book specifically is her and I really enjoyed In the Dream House, which is Carmen Maria Machado's memoir, and she passed off her paperback copy to me when she got the hardcover copy, so it's just something that we've kind of shared, and I thought, I've read this and really enjoyed it, and she hasn't, so I thought I'd pick it up for her. I later learned that night, after I called to tell her all about the day and the bookstores that we saw, that she bought In the Dream House, the paperback that she gifted me, at the Elliott Bay Book Company in Seattle, which is random, and she bought it off of a staff pick. So it ended up being kind of kismet and absolutely perfect that I bought this for her. I didn't know at the time, but I'm so excited to give this to her for her birthday, and I know she'll be the first person to watch this video. So I love you, Natalie. Happy birthday. I hope you enjoy this collection of horror short stories. Lastly, in Seattle, we went to Mercer Street Books. I think that this was my favorite one. In terms of selection, this was my favorite bookstore. It was a used bookstore, but one where they kind of buy your books back. So they had a great selection of books. Clearly, I have abandoned, at this point, my one book per bookstore. The first book I bought is the Book of the Month edition of Babel. I didn't expect to find this at a used bookstore, considering how popular this book is as of late. This is also an upcoming book club pick, and seems much easier to own and annotate than to borrow from the library, because this is a thick book with itty bitty baby font. So this is about a character who is recruited for learning languages for purposes of translation, but I think it's more so a conversation about language as culture and colonialism, and I think it's magical, which is just fun. I also bought The Factory by Hiroko Oyamada, which is a little tiny baby book that I didn't expect really to find, but here we are at this used bookstore. So this is about a industry, basically, that, from what I've heard, seems to kind of resemble Amazon, just like this conglomerate, this business, and people are recruited to work there, but giving no specifics as to what exactly their job is, and it seems a little bit strange about how this company even works. It just seems like a short, weird book. Another short, weird book is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata, about a little girl whose stuffed animal convinces her that she's an alien. How iconic is that? I am so excited to read this book. That is just perfect. That is just, it's perfect in every way. In Lake Forest Park, Washington, we went to Third Place Books, which was such a cool place because it was part of this big lobby that had a coffee shop and some lunch places and all of these tables, and then it had the bookstore. So it seemed like a really great place for community building and a place that I would visit frequently if I lived there. The first book I bought used is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, where a girl is mysteriously left this large inheritance but has to move into the guy's mansion, and he seems to enjoy messing with her, basically, And in my head, this is The Hunger Games just because of the title. That's not true, but it seems to be kind of one of these YA trials and tribulations type of books. So I'm all over that. I also purchased as a sale book Emrata's essay collection, My Body, which is obviously an exploration of how women are perceived in media and industry and her personal experience as a model. I'm really excited to read this book. I think it's going to be heartbreaking, but also really insightful, and I think this will be relatable in the sense of constantly feeling under scrutiny and exhausted about what you look like versus who you are. In Bellingham, Washington, which was the cutest little town, we went to Village Books, which was a 3-story block, basically, of a bookstore, and there I bought The Push by Ashley Audrain. This book really intrigued me for the haunted baby element of it. A woman who was given birth recently thinks her baby is haunted, basically. I love this trope. I mentioned my favorite classic is The Scarlet Letter, and that's basically a big part of it, is Hester Prynne's daughter is a little bit creepy and spooky. I'm gonna tell an embarrassing story, and I just need everyone to be nice to me. So in our book club, we take turns picking books, and I really wanted to read The Push. As I mentioned, the haunted baby aspect really was interesting to me. And so I bought what I thought was The Push at Savers and chose it for book club. I said, we're reading Push by Sapphire. This book is not this book. This book is about a 16-year-old girl who has been assaulted twice, resulting in pregnancy from her father, as she's trying to get an education and find her own identity. A very good and important book. Not this book. And I was actually the last person in the book club to start reading, and they were like, Katie, do you know what this book is about? I was like, yeah, a haunted baby. I'm stupid. To be fair, they're very similar titles, and I really enjoyed this book. But now I finally have The Push. In Bend, Oregon, I went to Dudley's Bookshop and Cafe, and they had also a great used section, and I bought Call Me By Your Name by Andre Ackman. I have not seen this movie, and I finally have the urge to watch it, but I think I'm gonna really like the book, so I bought the book, and then I can read the movie. No, I can watch the movie after I read the book, but look at Timmy. Also, Dudley's had the best chai. I got their prana chai. They have 4 different kinds, but as a tea drinker, it is so rare to find something interesting going on with a tea menu. So I really appreciated that. 10 out of 10 for me, and they had the cutest book staircase. In a little free library in Bend, Oregon, off the side of the road, I picked up Piranesi by Susanna Clark, about our main character who lives in this kind of never-ending labyrinth of a house and is set out to explore it. And it won the Women's Prize. And the last bookstore we went to was Vroman's on Colorado Boulevard, like right in the heart of Pasadena. And it is there that I purchased, after days of searching and constantly second-guessing myself if I knew the author's last name, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This book is currently being championed by Books with Emily Fox. She seemed to have purchased it on a whim and fell in love with it, and the concept is 40 women trapped in a bunker finding it out. And that sounds so interesting to me, and like dystopian and bleak. Short, weird book, which is my brand these days. And so I'm so excited to own this, so excited to read it. And that is the end of my book haul. Oh, that's like half. So overall, I would say that this was a successful trip. Thank you for watching this. I appreciate it very much. Leave a comment about what your favorite bookstore is, because clearly I have a new hobby, which is bookstore hopping. So please tell me. I want to know, genuinely. Thank you again for watching my video as I become more comfortable doing these. I'm really enjoying it, having fun with it. Now I have to find a place for all of these.